I bought my cheating ex-girlfriend a gift she always wanted and it completely destroyed her happiness. I was with my girlfriend for 4 years and during the time we spent together I was convinced I was the happiest man alive. I was already picturing our future together, kids and everything. One day while she was away, I was searching for something in our bedroom. I started to hear some buzzing coming under from her pillow and found out that she had forgotten her phone. It kept buzzing so I let curiosity get the better of me and decided to look through her phone. I already knew her password from casually snooping one time, so I unlocked it. A bad thing for me to do, I know, but in retrospect, I couldn't be more glad that I did. It was just some email notifications, but I figured that since I was at the point of no return already, I might as well just look around. At this stage, cheating was not at all a factor for me. Again, I was convinced we were going to be married and have kids and live the life we both dreamed of. But something still urged me to go check her contacts, so I did. I knew all of her friends and family, so initially nothing stood out. Until I spotted the name Work Baby. I just clicked and I was immediately hit with a pic of her wearing the exact lingerie I gifted her for Valentine's, followed by him complimenting her with her reciprocating. The sweet and loving perception I had of her was instantly destroyed. I dropped her phone. I practically lost all motor function at that point. Like you simply can't put into words how confused and broken I was. I then went into the bathroom to vomit and stayed there for a good hour. I didn't want her to know that I just figured this out yet though, so I placed her phone back and went to go sit in the lounge until she came back. She asked me what was wrong. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I just came up with a lie to not alarm her. I couldn't sleep obviously, so during the night I decided to come up with a plan. The next day came and she had to go somewhere again around midday. I go on Tiffany.com and take a screenshot of a 1.5K set of earrings as if I'm about to buy them just to get her hopes up. I sent her a message saying, "Since work's been going really good, this is all yours," and attached the picture of the earrings I screenshotted. She gets extremely excited and starts sending me love hearts, calling me the best boyfriend and said how she can't wait until she gets home. I had a lot of time to kill till she got back, so I cleared out all of her clothes from her closet and put it in a suitcase. I wrote a note just saying "Work Baby" and placed it on top of her suitcase. I then gently placed everything outside. I locked my door at around 7 p.m. I started to hear her bashing on my door, followed by a dozen raging texts and her trying to call me, so I switched off my phone and maxed out the volume on my speakers to drown out the noise.
Sister ditched me with $450 dinner bill, so I gave the restaurant all of her information and called the police. My sister and her boyfriend recently moved to a town next to mine. I was excited as we'll be able to see more of each other now. Nearby there is a downtown center that has a lot of shopping, restaurants, galleries, etc. There is one 5-star restaurant that me, my husband and I love. A dinner for two will run you about $250 to $300, so it's not a place we can frequently go to. My sister called me last week and invited us out to dinner with them at the restaurant last night. I reminded her it was an upscale place and to take a look at the menu beforehand because they have very high pricing, and we can just go somewhere else and there's tons of other great places to choose from. She said they still wanted to go. We hadn't been there in a while, so we accepted. Dinner was phenomenal. At the end of the meal, my sister excused herself to the bathroom, and when she doesn't come back relatively soon, her boyfriend leaves the table to go find her. After a while, neither of them comes back. We go to check for them and they are gone. I call and text her and she texts me back saying that they've left but thanks for dinner. It was just as amazing as you said it would be. I asked her what she meant but no response. I texted again asking if she really just stuck us with the bill and no response. I then texted that I never agreed to pay for them and that she had 20 minutes to come back to the restaurant or I'll give the restaurant all her information and they will likely involve the police. No response. At the 20-minute mark, I called and texted and got no response. She left me with no other decision, so I stayed true to my word. I paid for mine and my husband's portion and gave all her information to the restaurant manager for their portion, then left. The next day, she called me back crying because she has been getting calls from the restaurant asking her to come pay or they will contact the police. Like, what else did you think would happen? I said I'm not surprised since she skipped out on her bill. She said she thought I was paying the tab since I've paid for our dinners in the past. I have paid for her and me only in dinners where the total tab was $60 max. I said this was obviously different than all the other times we met for dinner. This was all 4 of us and at an upscale restaurant that you insisted on going to. And I was not paying the $450 tab and she had to cover her portion. I reminded her that she invited us out and chose the restaurant. I specifically asked if she wanted to go somewhere else, but she is the one who insisted on going to this restaurant. She then said she thought I'd just pay, but when I asked the waiter for separate checks, she realized I wasn't and left for the bathroom to ditch me. I said that since the restaurant hadn't contacted the police yet, all you need to do is go in and pay and everything will be settled. She didn't want to do that because she would be too embarrassed, and asked me to cover it. I again said no and that she had to take care of it herself. Clearly I will not be paying for anything ever again. Our family has now gotten involved and I'm being forced to just pay the bill. So am I wrong if I don't and let the restaurant call the police on my sister? Mother-in-law stole my kids' M&Ms, so I turned my entire family against her. My wife, 34 female, and I, 31 female, have 2 wonderful children together, 4-year-old twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs and a known donor and I carried/birthed them. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this week. My kids were outside playing with their cousins. And my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and I were having a nice chat in the kitchen. At one point, my two kids run inside from playing and ask if they could have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them no, we'll be eating in 20 minutes, you can have them after dinner. A little bit later, my sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little bowl filled with M&Ms that they are eating. It is their favorite snack. I told my kids that they knew they weren't supposed to be eating those right now and I took away the bowl. My mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and that they can have them, to which I replied, no, they can't, it's dinner time. You were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the bowl from out of my hands. We go back and forth, prompting my wife to start walking over to us just in time to hear her mother say in front of our kids, I'm saying it's okay, they aren't even your kids, they're my daughters, just give them the chocolate. My wife had her mom repeat herself and said something like, absolutely not, we are leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both kids who were now softly crying and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into a massive chaos. Father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and his wife arguing with their father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It's a complete mess at this point. After a couple hours at home, the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. My wife spent about 6 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family. From father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be the bad grandma. Brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed, saying she would pass away without seeing her great-grandkids ever again. My wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandma and brother-in-law's family, but we will not bring the kids around my mother-in-law ever again until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology hasn't happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the a**hole for insisting for an apology? I found out my boyfriend has been putting slugs in my food. I don't know how to forgive him. I, 23 female, have been with my boyfriend, 25 male, for 4 years now. I have never known him to do anything like this, but I noticed he started acting a little strange around a month ago. He started putting fruit on the floor in the garden, and I thought it was a bit strange. When I asked him, he said he was just feeding the mice family. So, I thought it was sweet of him, and helped him do so. I remember thinking how innocent he is, and how attracted that made me to him. He started being really nice to me around 2 weeks ago and making me food every day, baking me cakes and stuff, which he never usually cooks. So I was really happy he found a new hobby, and our relationship was becoming better than it already was. But after I would eat his meals, I would notice something. After eating, I would sometimes feel sick or dizzy. But I just put it down to lack of sleep/hormones. My boyfriend's best friend came into my work today. He found me in my office and opened the door, which he never usually does. He told me that he needed to speak to me as soon as possible when I was free. I was a bit weirded out because he seemed very serious. He's the type to always be playful and was the funniest guy that I knew, so I had a feeling something was up. After finishing up my work, I went to his office and knocked on his door. When he let me in, he told me that my partner has been collecting slugs from the garden, blending them up, and putting them in my food. He sent his friend pictures of bags of slugs that he had collected and the pictures of blended slugs. I feel so sick to my stomach. I can't believe I ate all of that. I don't understand why he did this. This is so out of character of him. I asked his friend why he was doing this to me. He said that he was doing it because I was apparently snooping through his messages, which I would never do, and he got so angry at me because I didn't trust him being faithful to our relationship. I feel absolutely disgusting. I love him to pieces, but I just don't understand his ways of thinking just now. Am I overreacting? I don't know what to do, and I feel so lost.
I admitted that my parents and niece are the reason I left, so they ruined my life and reputation. I'm a 29-year-old male and I have a niece, 19-year-old female. When my niece was a little kid, she was unbelievably mean and was downright disrespectful. If no one was around, she would scream and cuss at me, and would do things to me that she would have never done if our parents or grandparents were around. She would spit on me, throw stuff at me, humiliate me in front of my girlfriend, and purposely spill stuff on my clothes. Whenever I told her to leave me alone, she would run to grandma and tell her I was being mean and I would instantly get in trouble. A month before I turned 18, I told my parents that I really wanted to visit New York City over the summer, and she agreed. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I already got my bags packed and they saved up, booked the tickets and we were all ready to go. I was so excited that I couldn't even put it into words because this was my first time leaving North Carolina. The next day my parents informed me that we couldn't go because they had planned a huge surprise party for my niece, whose birthday was 2 days before mine. They told me that they also miscalculated and going to New York City was a lot more expensive than they initially thought. But, I was told that my niece's birthday party was over $10,000. All of the money they saved up for us to go to New York City was all spent on her party. When I asked them why they couldn't just cancel it instead, they got very mad. My entire family told me I'm an entitled brat and to stop being so selfish. They never canceled the party and I heard all about it from my niece's social media. I was tired of it. 3 months later I packed my bags and moved to New York City. I went to college there and never left after graduating. About 2 weeks ago I got a phone call from an uncle about a family reunion. I thought it would be nice for my sons to meet some of their family members, and my family had never met my wife before, so we went. As soon as I got there I saw my niece. She acted the same as she did before. My aunt asked why I moved to New York City, to which my mother answered for me, saying that it was so I could go to college. I started laughing uncontrollably, and revealed the truth. I told them about everything I went through, and how I was looked at as a stupid entitled brat. My niece was always right and I was always wrong. I told them about all the times she spit on me, pushed me, and called me names and nobody was ever on my side or cared about how I felt. That is the real reason I packed my bags and moved as far away as I could, and why nobody heard from me in over 10 years. My family was absolutely appalled. I was expecting some kind of apology. Instead, they did the opposite. They immediately escorted me out, but not my wife. They flipped the entire story and told my wife about everything I have done to my niece over the years. They told her I was the one who did everything, and not her. Every story was completely flipped in favor of my niece. My wife actually believed them. It has been 2 weeks and I haven't heard from her. She took the kids and cut all contact with me. I'm getting messages from her family and all of my friends about how much of a monster I am. After all of these years they still side with my niece over the years. Safe to say I won't be seeing them ever again.